Okay. Yes. Are you? Okay. I think I am too. Okay. All right. Do we have Senator Dixon here? Unless he's hiding behind the post and I can't see him behind the column. Okay. Let's give him just a minute. Welcome, Senator Dixon. We're about to send out the troops to find you. We're glad you're here. Yours is the only bill we're hearing today, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Regulatory Subcommittee of House Regulated Industries. Today we'll be hearing one bill, Senator Dixon's SB 502. Senator, please confirm, I believe your admin brought me at the sub. We're working off of LC 473026S. Okay. Let me get your mic on here. All right. Well, please tell us about your bill.
I will be glad to, Madam Chairwoman and committee members. My apologies for being tardy. It seems like that's been the story of my life today. But thank you for allowing me to bring SB 502 before you today. There are a couple of different components to it. Senator Anavitarte had an addition to it as well. He's unable to make it, so I'll do my best to explain his portion of the bill as well. But what we're calling this bill is the First Amendment Preservation Act. And, over the last several years, the First Amendment has seen, several challenges, we dealing with the the COVID pandemic and moving forward through that. But, essentially what the bill does is there's media monitoring companies that have emerged over the past several years. And us as state legislators, we're not here to, argue or debate, the constitutionality of media monitoring services or decide whether advertisers should be actively engaged in, certain national conversations. And it's a bipartisan issue dealing with some of the censorship from some of these blacklists that these companies come up with. It's on both sides of the aisle. And simply what Senate Bill 502, what it does is it requires any Georgia state agencies purchasing advertising with taxpayer dollars, it requires them to hire agencies that do not use any of these blacklists or any of these censoring census, because no matter which side of the aisle we're on, we want to make sure that messaging gets out to all Georgians. And that's simply what the underlying bill does. And then Senator Anavitarte, he had an addition to the bill, a floor amendment. I was hoping that he could be here because I know he would be able to present that bill better, or this portion of the bill better than I could. But simply what the floor substitute, what it did, it identifies concerns with companies that dealing with China and dealing with certain computers, laptops, dealing with printers or any kind of technology-based information. It requires that the state of Georgia not purchase those particular devices.
Okay, thank you. And I found it interesting. So we're making a distinction here between, I thought this was interesting, a company of concern or a scrutinized company. I'm noticing that definition is included here.
Yes, ma'am, it is included in there.
Right. And then the foreign adversary means, and you've listed those particular countries.
Yes, they were listed out. I can read those out if you would like.
Yeah, I see them right here: Republic of Cuba, Islamic Republic of Iran, North Korea, Russian Federation, and Venezuela. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chairman.
Right. And can you clarify for me again, are we talking about just the purchase of advertising using these media groups? Is that, or is this any agency contract with any company for any sort of business?
Great question, because I know it's a little confusing with the amendment, in the time of year that we're in, getting amendments to bills. And, Senator Anavitarte would be able to kind of dissect that last part much better than I could. But the underlying bill, it had to do with advertising, media advertising, radio, TV, that type of advertising. His amendment has to do with purchasing of technology equipment.
Specifically technology equipment
ma'am.
from those. Okay, I understand. All right, so it would be any company of concern or a scrutinized company would not be eligible to enter into a contract with the state agency. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I understand. Did we have a flash? I thought I saw a flash. Representative Smith, no? Did you have a question?
I do have a question, but it's not flashing.
Oh, you're flashing now.
I'm flashing now?
Yeah. Okay.
Senator Dixon, correct?
That is correct.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to see you today. Has this problem occurred before? Is this an ongoing issue in this state?
Yes. Well, which part are you talking about?
I'm talking about your portion of the bill.
The
Excuse me.
advertising?
The advertising bill.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's really it's a state issue, but a national issue as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if we're using these at all.
I turned you on.
Oh, okay.
And I can
I'm
give
willing.
like more
Okay.
specific, examples. If you want to talk about like Twitter files, certain journalists, but depending on, it could be an array of different issues that they may report on, whether it's a left-leaning issue or a right-leaning issue. They can be locked out of their accounts or censored or things like that when they're put on that blacklist based on the subject matter that they're reporting on.
Yes. Thank you. So I wanted to piggyback on what my colleague asked. Do we have any statistics on how many companies we're talking about here? Like, the way I read the company of concern in which China has an ownership stake, how is that defined? And how many companies are we talking about?
Mainly, there are several. Let me see if I can find the. Let's see, Lexmark Printers is one of them, and then Lenovo, if I'm saying that right. It's a computer and laptop company
The one
that's
that
owned
we
by.
all have? We all have Lenovo's. Aren't that's the state-issued computer? All of our laptops are Lenovo.
No, mine's not.
Mine's a Dell.
Yeah, mine's a
Lenovo.
Dell.
I just got it 2 days ago. It's a
Oh, did
Lenovo.
you?
Oh, the new ones might be.
Yeah, I got a new one, yeah. It's a Lenovo.
Mine's fairly old, or
I
at
got-
least 3
My
years
fairly
old.
old one died, so I got a new one, and it's a Lenovo.
Right.
I would really like more really specific information about how many companies are we cutting out. I am concerned that we have some countries on here like Venezuela and Cuba, where we may have people who live here who are trying to make a better life, who have left Cuba and Venezuela. And I'm just curious to know if any of those companies would be included in this, if they're trying to escape and make a better life for themselves. Are we including any of those? I would just like more information, like
Yeah,
statistics.
no, be happy to get that information before the next committee hearing. I'd be glad to do that.
Representative Smith?
Senator Dixon, I seem to be fine with that portion of the bill that speaks about the different countries that are foreign adversaries. But I do seem to be concerned about your portion of the bill. Can you please explain just to me just a little bit further, perhaps maybe a specific candidate that's been censored or committee that's been censored?
Yes, one example don't have a specific candidate or anything of that nature. But if you can remember, one example would be the New York Post, and when they started reporting on Hunter Biden's laptop and dealing with the Russian disinformation, they were locked out of their Twitter account because of that, and it was all taken down. That would be one example.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And then also, again, just to clarify, I mean, we're not saying that private individuals or private companies in this country can't do business with these. We're saying that Georgia, that public agencies, that the
That's correct.
state,
Yeah, state dollars.
right? So
That's correct.
people are still free to do business with. I mean, if they're if they desire the companies of concern or the scrutinized company, nothing is prohibiting private companies from entering into.
That is correct, Madam Chair.
We are strictly talking about the state not entering into contractual business arrangements, correct?
That is correct.
For either technology, right, equipment,
That's it.
or for the purpose of advertising. Any state
That's
agency,
correct. Yeah, not
state
dealing with
agencies
private,
that
not
right.
trying to do any overreach of government. It's just state dollars.
Understood.
Yeah, so taxpayer dollars.
I understand.
And then also the Biden administration dealing with the technology portion of it. The Commerce Department, they issued new rules amid the cutting. They cut off Chinese firms for the ability to manufacture advanced computer chips. They will also be followed by an executive order creating federal authority to regulate U.S. investment in China companies.
I understand.
That's a federal issue. I know that's
Right.
reaching from our state level to the federal level, but it is a bipartisan issue. Both parts of this bill are,
Right.
because we want to make sure, the first part, if there's any messaging going out from the state, and a lot of that's not going to be partisan, but it's just, if there's information coming out, from the state, we want to make sure that it reaches all Georgians.
Yes, I understand. Thank you. And then I know that Representative Hutchinson, I think, was interested in perhaps getting some idea of how many companies might be impacted.
Yes, be happy
I
to
guess
do
my
that.
question there
Absolutely.
would be, I always say we do vetting in this committee. Would that be something, if we were to pass this along to full committee, something that you could come prepared to present to the full committee?
Absolutely,
If
Madam
we
Chair.
move this along, and then
Yes.
you would, when you appear before full committee, before Chairman Powell, you would have the information that
Oh, most certainly.
that Representative Hutchinson is asking for. Okay. Thank you.
Be glad to get that.
Do we
Yes,
have
ma'am.
any other members of the committee with any questions? No? Does anyone here wish to speak to the bill? We do? Oh, sorry. We do have a list. Thank you. John Simpson? Yes, please, if you would. Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
Madam Chair, thank you for the opportunity to come speak today. I represent Newsmax Media. You may know us as a broadcaster and a publisher of print media. Our interest in this legislation has to do with what are the media monitoring organizations, so that's Section 2 and 3 of the bill. Specifically, there's concern that there are organizations out there that claim themselves to be the arbiters of truth, and they will decide what is misinformation or what is disinformation, and then label certain publishers as purveyors of disinformation or purveyors of misinformation, and create a blacklist that they then give to advertising agencies and say, do not place advertisements on these particular websites or television shows or whatever it might be. And I want to be clear, even though I represent Newsmax, this is very much a bipartisan issue. It's not just the right that is being censored, although in our current environment, certainly the right viewpoint tends to be censored more. But there are organizations on the left. One of them is called Consortium News, who is critical of the war in Ukraine and has also similarly been put on blacklists. And they're actually suing some of these organizations for a violation of their First Amendment. And the reason this is a state issue, ultimately, is that we're talking about content viewpoint discrimination and saying that there are these organizations out there that will say the state shouldn't advertise with this viewpoint, or a media organization that has this viewpoint, and that's concerning from a First Amendment standpoint. Certainly, businesses, if you don't want to sell Jif peanut butter on a certain website, you're not obligated to sell your Jif peanut butter on any website. But if you have a message that is important enough to merit government funding, to merit government advertising dollars, then certainly it's important enough to reach everybody regardless of their viewpoint on certain news issues. And so all this amendment says is that when the state of Georgia is looking to purchase advertising, it should require the advertising agencies it works with to certify that they're not going to use one of these blacklists when putting that advertising out.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Mr. Simpson? Okay. I don't hear any. Thank you. Taylor Hawkins?
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Hawkins. Go ahead.
Not a problem. Thank you, Madam Chairman, for the opportunity to address you this morning, or this afternoon, rather. It's been a long morning. Taylor Hawkins with Frontline Policy Council. Our organization represents family and Christian values here in our state, and we just want to offer our full support for this bill as it stands, both the underlying bill as well as the substitute language. We're broadly in favor of both of them. We think it is an important stand for our state to take, that when taxpayer dollars are being allocated, that they're allocated in a method that does not benefit either side, that it should be done in a neutral way so that not one side's not benefiting against the other, and so that the state is not perpetuating narratives on either side that could be used or weaponized against either side. And also the underlying bill is a very good piece of legislation to make sure that taxpayer dollars are also not being used to benefit companies that are owned by foreign adversaries to this nation. As you know, Madam Chair and committee members, other nations, particularly China, use their regulatory format to make sure that they have access to the data that companies that are based in their nations have access to as well. And so, particularly when it comes to things like the technology platforms that have already been discussed, it's very important that we make sure that the interests of our state are protected, the interests of our nation are put ahead of, maybe the cheapest bid out there. So both pieces of legislation, the underlying bill by Senator Dixon as well as the addition by Senator Anavitarte, we're wholly in favor of. Think good bipartisan pieces of legislation to prevent again, taxpayer dollars from being weaponized against one side or the other, to enhance neutrality of the state's allocation of funding, and to protect the interests of our consumers. So with that, I stand open for questions if there are any.
Don't believe you have any questions. Any questions on the committee? No? Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. I think that is it. We don't have anyone else to speak to this particular bill. And I appreciate, is Senator Dixon still in the room? Can you tell me a little bit about this bill's experience in the Senate?
Trying to remember back.
Well, you have been a busy man. I know I saw you this morning in higher ed.
I made a second-term legislator mistake and authored too many bills this year.
I completely
So
understand.
they start running together. Won't do that again. So the underlying bill, it passed out, no issues in committee. I'm trying to I think there was only a couple of no votes on the floor. I can't remember on Anavitarte's with the floor amendment. I'm trying to remember what. I don't want to misspeak on that. And I may be misspeaking on some of the other. Several of the votes have kind of run together on me.
That's fine. And actually, I think you do. Okay. I think I do have a question
Thank you for that,
you.
Representative. I couldn't remember.
We have Representative Washburn.
No question, Madam Chair. I was just prepared to make a motion at the appropriate time.
Okay, we have no one else further to speak to the bill. I do appreciate your willingness to bring back a list of the companies, or at least an approximate list of the companies that would be affected based on Representative Hutchinson's request.
Yeah, no, that's a great,
in full
great
committee.
request and great
Yeah.
question. Be happy to do that.
One last question, Representative Smith.
I don't have a question, but I just want to, I guess, for the sake of the record, state that it did pass along party lines, and there were 19 no votes. Not a couple.
Thank you for looking that up.
Yeah,
I
not a
couldn't
couple,
remember.
19.
I authored 15 bills, Senate bills.
But I
this
do
year, so
believe
I have a hard time
viewpoint
remembering.
censorship is an issue. I
Thank
do
you.
believe that.
Yeah, it is a bipartisan issue. It really is.
But it didn't pass bipartisan. Not bipartisan.
Okay, understand. Alrighty. Thank you, Representative Smith. So at this time, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we recommend to do pass recommendation out of the subcommittee.
Okay. Thank you. So we have a motion to pass, and we have a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Thank you. The measure does pass. Senator Dixon, thank you. I look forward to
Thank
seeing
you.
you in full committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
And, our meeting is adjourned.